Can you hear me now, YouTube? Can you hear me now, YouTube?
Now what?
Okay, there we go. Now I think we got it working. YouTube, thanks for your patience. I'm going to blast this thing out and then we'll record again because that's just where I'm at tonight. Yes, I hear you. All right. We'll see if anybody bothers to come back for this one. Somehow I doubt it. All right, Jungle Auburn podcast fans, welcome back to the Jungle Auburn podcast. We are following up a 94-78 victory, a victory that sounds pretty good. But if you watched any of this game, Auburn struggled mightily, including getting the lead down to as few as 1 point in the second half before a furious rally and a Tahad Pettiford deep three-pointer helped put this one away. This is a late addition to the schedule, holiday hoopsgiving, usually a little closer to Thanksgiving, our game in the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. However, this year, with the Players Era tournament, so many changes in opponents, trying to find somebody to play, we wound up with Chattanooga, a team predicted to potentially win the SoCon. Last year, they finished the season winning the NIT tournament after they did not win their conference tournament, which is the only way the SoCon gets an auto bid to March Madness. So, not a bad team, kind of one of those classic Bruce Pearl mid-major teams that is going to bring in a bit of a challenge. They threw a lot of unusual zone coverages at us that sort of made this game a lot more challenging than it needed to be, especially considering we had a size matchup in Keyshawn Murphy. That might be a good place to start a little bit of our MVP discussion. He had 9 points and 9 boards. He was pretty big all this game, but only played 22 minutes despite having a clear advantage in size. The zone was sort of able to take away our interior presence. We had a lot of pretty good big to big passing. Sebastian Williams Adams finished with 5 assists, and Keyshawn Hall, the big guard, finished with 6 assists. That's good enough for the team lead in a game in which Auburn finished with 17 total assists. So not quite reaching that 20 point that we wanted to. Particularly the first half, there was a lot of struggles there, but Keyshawn Hall got his 10 rebounds, 22 points. He was 5 of 9 from the floor, but only 1 of 5 from deep. 3-point stroke, not really there for him tonight, but he was once again a big time closer for us. He finished 11 of 14 from the charity stripe. Pretty good numbers for him. You normally like to see that a little closer, maybe only 1 or 2 misses, but we're not going to hold it against your big guard. And then Tahad Pettiford, holy cow. We saw a lot more of him in that off ball position tonight, and it continues to work wonders for his shot. 5 of 9 from deep, including that late deep 3 that was kind of an FU to the team for trying to score a little bit there at the end. He was 5 of 6 from the charity stripe, pretty good. He scored 20 points, so he continues his tear of fantastic scoring performances. But as a point guard, kind of left a lot to be desired tonight. Only one rebound, only 2 assists, and 3 turnovers to go along with his 3 fouls that kept him out a little bit in that second half after he picked up his third. He did finish playing 30 minutes tonight, including splitting some time with Caden Magwood running point on the floor tonight. But my vote for MVP comes from a guy that we've needed to step up a lot this year and finally took advantage of his size, it felt like, skying for some rebounds, playing really aggressive defense, maybe a little too aggressive. He did pick up 4 fouls in this game, but 7 rebounds and 7 made baskets, 7 of 13 from the floor, including 2 of 6 from deep, 3 of 3 at the charity stripe. You know, my favorite stat, to finish with 19 points. So for my money, Elijah Freeman, you are the Jungle Podcast's MVP for this game against Chattanooga. Happy holidays. We got you just what you wanted. Your first MVP of the Jungle Auburn podcast. We got to talk a little bit about player stats, but before we get into that, we got to talk about the big news that we got before this game tipped off. Emeka Oporum done for the year. Our backup center, our big 7-footer, the only player on this roster that brings real size to the floor. He's wrapping it up. He's done for the season. And that's going to leave Auburn continuing to be undersized. But in a game in which we had a real size advantage, you got a sense of how sloppy this game was going to be right from the get-go. Auburn lost the opening tip, and on their first offensive possession, Tahad Pettiford turned the ball over, one of his 3 team-leading turnovers. Auburn finished the game with 13 turnovers. I already mentioned they had 17 assists, so 17-13 plus 4 in the assisted turnover margin. Not exactly where you want to be. Thankfully, we showed up on the glass. We won rebounding 41-20, so we doubled them up in rebounds, but 13 offensive rebounds, which tells you we missed a fair amount of shots. 49% for the field, not bad. We got up 53 shots to Chattanooga's 59, so we continued to be a little bit more efficient than they were, but we were 11 of 30 from deep, so we took a lot of three-pointers in a game in which they were showing a lot of zone at us. And for the first time in a while, we made a lot of 3-pointers. 11 made 3-pointers is pretty good for this Auburn team. It was good for 37%. If you're watching with us here on YouTube, we've got the Justin Ferguson box score up, so you can look at the stats from the whole game. If you haven't ever joined us on YouTube after a game, once we get into conference play, it's a lot of fun to be here, a lot of fun to be in the chat, get your voice and your vote in for who is going to be named the Jungle Auburn Podcast MVP. Right now, it's just me deciding. I can't even get Matt and Jackson to show up in the chat, our group chat, half the time to give me a little MVP vote. Chris Thomas, welcome back. Pocket Watch, we know you were here earlier. Sorry, it looked like my microphone was not working. So this is our second pass at a podcast here. Let's talk rotations. We had some weird rotations tonight, including Kevin Overton only playing 11 minutes in this game. Kevin Overton looked completely lost on defense. And if there's one thing Stephen Pearl is not going to tolerate, it's guys not playing defense well. And I think that led to a lot of Kevin Overton not being in this game. But it was also, again, he was our player to watch coming into this. This was a good game to continue to get Caden Magwood up to speed. And Caden Magwood fighting through screens, boxing out down low, doing a pretty good job of playing defense from the one position. And we got to see, as I mentioned earlier, some cool moments with him running the one and Tahad Pettiford being our score first 2-guard, which, you know, we saw a lot of that last year where we'd have Denver and Tahad Pettiford on the floor at the same time. And it just gives you another weapon at guard that you know can score consistently. Over the last couple of games, Tahad Pettiford has really found his stroke from deep. So he's continuing to improve those numbers. Again, 5 of 9 tonight, better than 50% from three-point land, including an FU3 at the end of the game, which you love to see. Hopefully that is just Tahad continuing to see confidence in his shot and finding what his role is going to be in this offense. We're going to need it because coming up next Saturday is Purdue. And that's going to be a tough one, folks. We do not want to come out as flat-footed against Purdue as we did against Chattanooga. We had a big shot from Elijah Freeman to end the half to stretch the lead to 5 going into the break. It was only a 3-point lead at the half. Again, just all kinds of things that are going to get you beat against good teams. And we've seen this Auburn team a couple of times this year get beaten like a drum against good teams. And we've only got one more opportunity in quad 1 to get a statement victory before we enter conference play. And folks, I got to tell you, the SEC is not as deep as it has been in previous seasons. Kentucky doesn't necessarily look good. Florida looks mortal, although they are continuing to improve. Arkansas looks like a very good team. We're going to learn a lot about Alabama when they play tonight against Arizona. So I don't know what the ceiling, or I should say, I don't know what the floor is for this Auburn basketball team right now. There's a world in which we have another 20 to 30 point loss to Purdue, go 8-10 in conference, and we are relying on the committee to hand us a berth in March Madness. And folks, that is just not a place that you want to be going into the SEC tournament. We want this team to be a little closer to its ceiling, one of those top 4 seeds getting the double bye in the SEC tournament. We want to be at least +1 in conference play for sure. That's going to make a big difference in terms of our seeding, getting off that 7-8 line if we can, and if we can win a couple of games in the SEC tournaments. Rebounding like we did tonight is going to be big. Just got to move the ball better. 16 second chance points for Auburn. That's good. But again, that's just a place where you see our size coming in. One bright spot tonight was Simon Walker came back into the rotation. He played a couple of rotations out there and hit 2 3-pointers. He's now 8 of 11 on the year. So we've got a guy on that bench that is an absolute headhunter from 3. Unfortunately, Simon Walker got absolutely roasted on defense. He and Keyshawn Hall seem to have that walking bucket on both ends of the floor dilemma that we have just got to see our guys become better defenders, especially off the bounce. Auburn's transition defense was particularly bad tonight. Chattanooga beat us in fast break points 18-14, and they actually beat us in points in the paint 36-30. And that's against a team where they were undersized. So against teams that are better and have faster athletes that can make those cuts into the middle of the lane, it's going to be tough. Guys have got to work on fighting through screens. They've got to understand when to help and when to step into their area and defend their portion of the floor and stick with their man. Stephen really shortened up the rotations tonight. We had 4 guys play 30 plus minutes. I think we're going to see a lot of that throughout the season. Sebastian Williams-Adams, 33, Elijah Freeman, 33, Keyshawn Hall, 36 again. I think it speaks well to Keyshawn Hall's health that he's continuing to play all these brutal minutes, but also he just seems like we have to have him out there because nobody else is able to get a bucket or be as consistent from the foul line as he was. Although Sebastian Williams-Adams, Philip Jovic combined 7 of 10 from the free throw line tonight. That's pretty good. Add in our big man, Keyshawn Murphy, and we're talking about 10 of 14 from the free throw line from our front court tonight. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. And then you look at the backcourt, pretty good all around. Todd Pettiford, 5 of 6. Elijah Freeman, 3 of 3. Keyshawn Hall, 11 of 14. The team as a whole, 29 of 37. That's good for 78%. That is about where you want to be. That's really good free throw shooting for an Auburn basketball team. Maybe not so much for the rest of the league, but we can only compare to ourselves at this point, especially in a game like this. So coming up Saturday in Indianapolis, a technically neutral court, but it is in the state of Indiana. So you better believe the Purdue fans are going to show up and they're going to be loud. It is a chance for Auburn to once again play a top 10 caliber opponent. And you really want to get this win. Going 1 for 3 in the Big 4 matchups is going to be a tough pill to swallow for this Auburn Tigers basketball team, particularly headed into a tough and brutal conference schedule where they're going to continue to be undersized as they have been for most of the year. But for now, 14-point win. Happy holidays to all of you listening to the Jungle Auburn podcast, to all of you that came back. Chris Thomas, Pocket Watch, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next time. We'll be here again live on Saturday after the game.